we're going to do one from your homework for tonight on the quadratic formula and why you need imaginary numbers and complex numbers. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I've got an imaginary number, I've got a real number and an imaginary number, and I've got a real number line and an imaginary number line. So first, -3, is that imaginary or real?
Real.
So I go to my real number line and I'm going to go where?
-3.
1, 2, 3. And then my imaginary number is?
2.
So I'm going to go up 1, 2. That's it.
Where are you at?
I am on the notes from yesterday, the guided notes from yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah. It's that easy.
You gotta start it again.
So we're going to do, excuse me, we're going to do the next 3 of these. Number 2, this is on the guided notes we did yesterday. Okay. So, number 2, we're going to do 3 I. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3. That's it. Imaginary number line just says to go up 3.
So I stand for up or down?
I stands for imaginary, which in this case is up or down on here.
Imaginary is the
So
y
how do you
axis
do
and 0 is
3?
the x-axis.
Not really,
But
okay, because I'm not listing a coordinate point, right? Because we could do that later.
Wait,
So I wanna
is
be
this what the
careful.
third one was? Did I do that right?
So you're going to the right 5
Did I do that right?
and down 1.
Yep, did it.
Okay. Last one. You guys tell me, what am I going to do?
go right
Go
3.
up
Right.
5 and
1,
right
2, 3, up.
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right.
Okay. I want you to flip this over. We're going to do G on the back, and then I'm going to do one more problem from your homework. Okay. Right here. How am I going to get rid of a squared? Okay.
Kelly, shut up, please.
So I get the square root of -27. Let's turn that into an imaginary number. Okay, so I'm going to think of it as x plus 3 equals the square root of 27 times the square root of -1. We're okay with that?
I guess so.
Right, and that's why I took it out, because a -1 times 27 is a -27, right? So I'm just thinking of it as separately. So I'm bringing down that x plus 3, but what two numbers multiply to give us 27, or one is a perfect square? 9 and 3. So I'm going to go the square root of 9 times 3 times that square root of -1. And what's the square root of 9, guys?
3.
So I know there's a lot of steps, and you don't have to do all of them, but I want to show you where it comes from. X plus 3 equals 3 square root 3. And what does the square root of -1 turn into?
I.
Now, I'm not putting it at the end because I don't want to think it's underneath the square root sign. Okay, because that's something totally different. Right?
Wait, where's the square root of 3 from?
9, we pull that out, right? Square root of 9 is 3. But we still have a square root 3 inside, right? So I have to bring that down. Now I'm going to subtract 3, and I'll be finished. So I get x equals -3 plus 3i square root 3. Questions?
Does the number always have to be before the I?
The I should be before that square root sign with whatever number. Yes?
And so the 3 doesn't cancel out the other 3? Like,
No, because it's like just like -3 plus 3x is not anything, right?
Oh.
Think of I as like an x. You can't get rid of it. Questions? Any others? Okay, we're going to do one from your homework. We're going to do number 14. It says this right in front of you, complex number review. Okay, I'm going to do number 14 on here. All right. 14 says x cubed plus 3x squared plus plus 11x. Now, I highly recommend you do it on a separate sheet of paper. Okay? I highly recommend it. You could also do a just need 11 through 20, so you could do it on the back of this paper too if you wanted. Whichever. Because the back's what? Okay, that's what I said too. That's why I did it on notebook paper. I didn't want to keep flipping it back. It's all of them. All of them. Okay, so what is the greatest common factor of these? What do all of these have in common? So I'm going to take out an x and put it in front. I took out the greatest common factor. I'm left with x squared plus 3x plus 11. And we're going to set it equal to 0, because what I'm looking for, the problem states that it wants me to find my roots, my zeros, my solutions. Okay? So do we agree if we put a 0 in for x, that this whole thing would be 0?
Yeah.
So do we agree that one of the solutions is going to have to be x equals 0? Okay. Now, I've got all of this left. I'm going to put this in the quadratic formula. Okay? So I know right from this that my a is 1, my b is 3, and my c is 11. Okay? So that is negative b, which is 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times 1 times c all over 2 times 1. Okay, I'm just going to do what's under the square root first. So please make sure you have this down. And remember the formula. I'm going to write the formula right up here. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. If you're having trouble remembering that, too, there's a great YouTube video. If you look up the fight song, the Michigan fight song, with
Mr.
the quadratic.
Weathers.
It's him. Okay, yeah. All right, so let's do what's under the square root first. Okay? So we get 3 squared is, okay, minus 4 times 1 times 11. You can do it all in pieces like this. I don't want to do that. Let's just put it all in our calculator at once, and what do we get? I get negative 35. So negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 35 over 2. I just put this part right here in my calculator. Came up with negative 35. All right. So the first thing I want to think of is, are there two numbers that multiply to give me 35 where one is a perfect square? No. So what can I change 35 to? We can go negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 35 all over 2. It's the imaginary number. I took out the negative so I can make it into an imaginary number, right? Okay, so I'm just going to get negative 3 plus or minus I times 35, square root of 35, all over 2. Now, you do not always have to separate, but is this one answer or is this two answers? Two. So we have negative 3 plus I square root 35 over 2, and negative 3 minus I over square root 35 over 2. So x equals each of these, and remember, x also equals 0 because we took out an x from the top. Where did I lose you?
Oh, in the beginning?
It is doing a lot. Which is why I delayed the quiz a little bit.
So we don't have to throw an entire day.
You can't, because you would get. So remember, if you square root of 35, you end up with a decimal. And it's like a decimal that goes on and on. It's often not repeating. I want the exact answers, not the approximation. Okay? So this is the exact answer. You can't do square root of 35 in your calculator. Yes, Kendall. Hold on, Kendall has a question. Then I'll answer yours, Laura.
If we left the plus minus thing on the test, would we get marked
No.
down?
You could have this equals x and this equals x. And that's it. You could have this answer or this answer. I don't need you to separate it for me. But if you would like, you could get either.
homework was that?
The 11 through 20 is like this. So I highly recommend you try another one like this, because the graphing should be no problem, right? It should take you a few seconds. Okay? The stuff 1 through 10 is just like last night's. So only if you have to divide something, which I don't think you do, should be the only hard part. Okay? And then this right here is the long part. Okay? All of this is due tomorrow at the beginning of the hour. And then we will go, we will do some book work after we go over this for homework for tomorrow. Let me stop the recording.